Hey, it's Drybear. The time has finally come. We're taking a look at the ultimate machine gun enduring legacy in the First Descendant. Now, this weapon has some fun interactions with a lot of characters. We see a lot of people running it with Lepic right now because of the unique ability that is allowed to increase damage when attacking a target that is burning and also apply a fire resistance down debuff. I've tested this weapon and it functions much like all the other percent down debuff weapons in the game. Crit resistance down, armor down, elemental resistance down like on Python or on the Enduring Legacy. And for some reason, all of those down debuffs do not apply as holistically as you would think. It's a very small portion of their overall value that gets applied. You do get a little bit more value if the target is a bigger target, like a more powerful target, like Colossi and Commanders and Elites get a little bit more value than you would on normal mobs. But even on Colossi at the highest umpteenth value, this weapon drops fire resistance by 44.2%. And you get about 2 to 2.3% increased damage because of it. So that is still valuable. It is still going to increase your damage, but again, just like the Python, just like some of the handguns and hand cannons that all have these down debuffs, it's not large enough unless they look at these effects globally for us to make a build around it. It's just kind of like a nice bonus, especially if you're running a fire elemental character that can benefit from that in some way. But we will get a nice bonus on this. There's two main things for the passive for Enduring Legacy that is very good. First, the attribute status effect trigger rate. This one is just for free. It already has a pretty decent flat value on it already, which a little bit higher than some of the automatic weapons. And it has a flat value on it on the unique passive as well, which gives us a nice overall round. This allows you to apply things like chill, electrocution, burn. All of those get applied a lot easier while you have this on. The next effect is going to be a firearm attack increase. This is 11% when you have the weapon fully upgraded, unique ability to the max. 11% firearm attack is not a crazy amount relative to some of these other ones like Albion Cavalry or some other like hand cannons, but it is great because the base weapon after the buff is insanely good. They brought up the crit chance and the crit rate. All of this got put into a very nice weapon. So these are the final numbers for Enduring Legacy. Let's talk about this sheet because I still get questions about this all the time. Below me here is going to be the setup for the optimal DPS on the weapon. So this is the full build for the Enduring Legacy setup. At a basic single target with average accuracy and weak point scaling, you're going to get about a 956k theoretical simulated DPS, which puts it at one of the highest single target DPSs in the game, only really being beat out by weapons like Nazastra's Devotion, which is one of the best single target weapons in the game, as long as you're slamming against weak point, which you can with that weapon because it has great accuracy. But let's go over this sheet and what you're looking at here, because I still get questions on this overall. I don't really want to give you the complete build for the weapon because I know a lot of people like to swap things in and out, and also progression is a journey in a grinding game. You're not going to unlock your first Enduring Legacy and it's already fully 10 catalysts built out with activation and everything. What I want to give you is the ultimate, like below my head, this is the highest DPS possibility for the build, right? These 10 mods combined together and upgraded as far as possible in order are going to give you the highest DPS output for this weapon that it could possibly have. But it is a machine gun. If you want to work in extra accuracy, if you want to work in reduced recoil, if you want to work in rounds conversion, so you get extra general rounds, if you want to have max rounds, whatever you want to work in, I've provided a list of weighted stat values so that you can actually compare the mods together, compare the stats together, and make your own choices on how you want to put the build together overall. Because this is a high round weapon on machine guns, mental focus is by far your best choice. In general, we usually see real life fighter at the top. Anytime anything beats real life fighter, you want to take it immediately because real life fighter is a skill-based mod. You do have to constantly be hitting the weak point without missing. Mental focus just requires you to hit a target and stack a buff, and mental focus in this case outperforms real life fighter, which means we throw real life fighter away and you have that there. You can still run it. It still is going to be decent. Sharp precision shot is also decent, but it does come with a negative until it's stacked up. But mental focus on these weapons that have crazy high round count allow us to really get value out of it. You'll also notice on the very low end here, we have concentrate support ammo and expand weapon charge. This means that on a weapon like Enduring Legacy, you can get to the max value of mental focus, which is 150% firearm attack, and then you can maintain that buff for anywhere from 50 to 72 rounds. It gives you ridiculous damage, and because it's easier to use, you may as well take it. That's an easy choice there. Then we want to max out our firearm attack with rifling reinforcement and action reaction. as of right now, until there's buff changes or balance changes, there's no reason not to run these two. And then in this specific case, because the passive of 11% firearm attack relies on you hitting a target that's burning, I would recommend running exactly fire enhancement on this weapon. This will give you a bonus in fire attack to the weapon. If you didn't know, if you have multiple elements on a single weapon, each weapon source can only apply one elemental dot effect. So there's like chill, electrocution, poison, and burn. If you have poison damage and then you reroll toxin damage and then you proc electric damage, what it's going to do is take the highest value out of all your elemental damages, and that's the only debuff that weapon can proc. So the reason we run fire enhancement, and we can even run flat fire damage on the reroll as well, is that if you ran flat fire damage on the reroll, but then you ran chill enhancement, you would proc chill, frostbite. You wouldn't proc something else, right? So you wouldn't be able to proc fire. You would lose the passive effect from the weapon, so you may as well run fire. You could run a character that applies burn, like a Blair or a Lepic or something, apply the burn, and then run the elemental weakness on the target, and that would give you a small DPS increase, but you'd have to make sure that you're always applying that burn ahead of time, and you probably aren't using your weapon during Mega Man and Lepic anyways, and Blair has his own downsides as well. So in this case, I would recommend actually just running fire enhancement on the weapon. Then we're gonna run fire rate up, better concentration, and better insight and concentration priority. For both concentrations, we know that this weapon has an insanely high base crit damage. You scale that crit damage up even more, and it has a base crit chance of 20%, which is crazy. We run just one crit chance mod here with better insight. All of the purples are not gonna be as good as fire rate up, concentrate support ammo, or round charge, because we're running mental focus. Now you have your best rolls, I think, on this weapon would be bonus versus colossi, firearm attack, crit damage, and flat fire damage. Those would be the best 4 rolls for this. However, if you were going to swap out one of these mods, especially one of the rounds mods, like if you wanted to swap out concentrate support ammo for like an accuracy or a recoil thing, then I recommend getting a max roll gold on rounds for the passive reroll on the weapon, just because, again, you want to hit 150 rounds on the weapon and then exceed it by as much as you can, because on the 150th bullet is when you get the full value of mental focus, and then every round over that amount is going to be at the max value of mental focus, which gives you a really nice value. So ideally you want to get to like 180 to like 220 rounds total in one single magazine, and you can only really do that with both of these down or by including the rounds reroll on the weapon. So if you wanted to modify this to have less recoil, more accuracy, whatever it is you want to add to the weapon that makes it feel better for you, then you would use the stat weighting on the left side, the stat weighting in the top right corner, and swap things in and out as you go. Just remember that if you lose max rounds by not having one of these two, I would work in rounds as a reroll on the weapon overall. There's one more thing I should mention about this weapon in general. It's a very niche case, but it is something that you should be aware of, is you could run this like a prime weapon. And what I mean by prime is what I started calling the weapons that have incredibly high, like, punishing weak point damage scaling. So things like the Python or Nazasha's Devotion, if you can just hammer into a weak point with a lot of damage, they scale really well. Enduring Legacy is at that same level. However, it is a machine gun with high recoil and high bloom and high inaccuracy. So to do that with this weapon is a very special case. Your best bet is going to be like when a Colossus gets stunned and downed. If you can manage to get really close and spam weak point, even with mental focus, you'll still get really good value. So if you wanted to run that build, you could, and that would give you decent value. You would swap out things like better insight and better concentration, and you would work in have aiming and weak point sight, and then the DPS would go up to around like 1.150. It's like 1,150,000 damage. It's not quite as good as Nazasha's for this, and it's much harder to perform, but if you could, in some situation in your own gameplay, find a way to just get really consistent on weak points with a weapon like this without running too many accuracy or recoil mods, it can actually pump some really strong weak point damage in that instance. I just can't recommend it because it's so inconsistent, as the weapon overall is meant to be spammy and low accuracy. But you'll find the sheet down below in the comments and the description, and all my other weapons that I've covered as well. Let me know what we should cover in the next video. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people. And don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.